Welcome to LoadPlanner CAD Crane Simulation. First of all, select a ship containing crane simulation and select new projects. Define the unit you wish to use in the crane simulation. In this case, we select a windmill tower, add in the data, save the towers, and load it somewhere on the deck. Select the crane simulator and the crane panel shows up. Also select the drawing tools. Using the drawing tools enable you to move the cranes in its hook point. Next step, decide how you wish to lift the unit. In this case by crane number 1 and 2, and we want to use slings only. Select the P on the unit to select the unit you wish to lift. And the lifting point editor will show up. The lifted point editor, you have an explanation how lifting point. If you don't want to show it, just move them. So you have to define all four corners of the lifting point. In this case, we have a round circle or a windmill tower, and we want to lift it in the quarters. Pick lifting point number 1, lifting point number 2, lifting point number 3, lifting point number 4. So now we have all the 4 lifting points, and we have defined the center of gravity in the middle. But you can change the center of gravity exactly how, or you can simply pick a center of gravity. But always pick center of gravity before you pick lifting points. In this case, we want to lift the unit by using shackles. We define 70 tons, 200 tons units, so we lift it in 4 times 75 tons shackles and save the unit. Once you have defined your rig, you need to draw the rig. In this case, we haven't defined the drop-down wire, the lengths of the drop-down wires. Alright, you have 2 options. You can edit in up here before you start drawing a rig, or if the slings are too short according to the calculation, you have to define it in. In this case, we just use 6 meters long slings. And the rig will be drawn up. And you can move it with the crane. Under the crane model setup area, you have various options. The crane model area, the plant model area, and you can add in grid showing the distance from port side or starboard side. All depends on what you wish to do. Some important functions. You use max range-based lifting height and keep rig at deck level. In this moment, the maximum crane range are defined based the hook load and the maximum range calculated. If we add up and set it to 25 meter slings and we draw the rig, we will get up to maximum range based lifting height. And that means that as long time you need to keep the unit at deck, your lifting height is limited. If you take off using maximum and keep deck level, you can override it simply moving and you will see the unit start dropping down. To make a full crane simulation, we can set the rig back to normal standard. 6 meters for rig and add in. Place your unit in your starting lifting position, for example over the ship side. From the starting position of lifting, we take off keep rig at deck level. We open up the crane panel number 1, and we wish to start lifting 4 meters under the deck level and press enter. Enter. We got something called steps. Steps. This is our first step to start here. So we save it as a new step. Then we want to lift up the unit. So we are 2 meters above deck level. Save it as a new step. Then we wish to start moving in the unit. We start with one crane, move slowly in. Save it as a new step. Next crane, next position. Save it as a new step. And we wish to move it to this position. Save it as a step. And we wish to move the unit up in a position where it have to be loaded. Save it as a step. We can put the unit longitudinal, and we can place the unit on deck and save it as a new step. So now we have made a long range of steps, and you can go between these steps and you can edit any steps. Just move it and save it as step 3 and so on. Then you have done it all. You can move, you can do the crane simulation. If by any reason you have to use spreader bars to lift this unit with, if we select 2 spreader bars, pick up, and we want to lift with these 2 small ones, insert object. Pick the top lifting point, pick the bottom lifting point. A standard that defined what type of shekels required for these spreader bars, but you can add in any type of spreader you wish to. When you are happy with the length of the wires and all, the top wire you can change the length of if you have specified wires, whatever, and then say use. And you don't have to do so much more than just click draw rig. And the spreader bars are added in too. You still have your steps, so you can go to these various steps and you can run all your steps using the spreader bars. If you're working with stability, open your stability. In this moment, the weight to the hook is not on the hook. You will see it's changing quite quickly when you're adding them. So, for example, when you start in your first step, step number 1, then add up, take the crane, the weight to the cranes. Then you have to calculate your ballast and see how much you need for each and every steps. For the rig, you have an info dialog box, and it's showing you the load on the hooks, various forces in the wires used, the spreader used, and the total height of the lift. And if you need to make a rig drawing, you can just simply, if I want to put this one on the deck level, and then I just click rig drawing. I have various options, but I just want to this. And it will be opened in the user CAD. In the user CAD, you can define, modify it, whatever. You can save the file as auto to AutoCAD and modify your lifting there and so on. If I want to try a new rigging type, for example, lifting it in crane number 1 alone, simply delete the rig. You got the option to load the unit again. Let's say we just place it here on the deck. This time I want to lift with crane number 1. I would need 1 long spreader bars. I will actually need 3 spreader bars. The first spreader bar I want to lift is the long one. Pick the lifting point. Pick bottom lifting point. This is a trunnion, so it's all giving what it is. So click use. Pick the bottom spreader bars. We again use the small ones. Pick lifting point. Enter your shackle and length of wires. Click use. Pick your unit. You still have the same lifting point, but what is changed in this moment? So we just save it and we can draw the rig. It's giving you a minimum required length of your wire. You can add in 14 meters. You can put a longitudinal. Sometimes it's allowed, sometimes it's not allowed to lift with the angles, especially on the windmill tower. So in this case, it will be maybe better simply lift it in a belly slinging. Adjust and simply use belly slinging and save. Draw the rig. And you're now lifting and belly lifting. And if you need to make a rig drawing, just create it. And it will be into the user CAD. And you can save it to AutoCAD, whatever you wish to. So crane simulation, quite simple.